From the creators of Jack TV, the authors of Get Jacked in 12, the training program, New York's very own muscle building coaches, Anthony Bevilacqua and Pete Kacharian, proudly present to you New York Muscle Radio.
What's up, guys? We're back. New York Muscle Radio, episode number 35. It's your host, Anthony Bevilacqua, and your co-host, Big Pete Kacharian. Big Pete, what's up, man? How are you?
Good. I'm, just finishing eating one of the new Quest bars that came out. I don't know if not the new flavor, one of the new formulas. Someone had actually told me that they changed something about it. The calories were different, and someone actually gave me one to try, and honestly was disappointed with it. You know, I'm a big fan of Quest bars, but looks like they changed the formula around a little bit, and they definitely sacrificed the flavoring a little bit. I don't know if you had those yet.
Nah, I haven't tried it though, but their new flavor is pumpkin pie, and I'm excited because that's like my favorite thing ever. Like, if I could have one thing, it would be pumpkin pie. And I actually was having a Quest bar this weekend, and I said, yeah, it would be so cool if they came out with a pumpkin pie flavor, and sure enough, they did. So I'm excited to try it. Hopefully Quest is listening to this, and maybe they'll send us a couple of boxes so we can, talk about if it's good or if it's bad. But what did they actually change in the label?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely would love to try one of the pumpkin ones because, anybody who knows me knows I eat about 2 Quest bars a day as long as I have them around. I go through those things like water, but they, a couple of people had told me that they had bought new Quest bars and the flavoring just wasn't right. And then they actually looked at the box, and the fat content was a little bit higher and the calories were different. And I hadn't had a chance to try any of them. I still had a few boxes of the old one. And someone actually gave me I like the cookies and cream one. They gave me a cookies and cream Quest bar, and they said, this is one of the new ones. Why don't you try it and tell me what you think? And I looked at the back of it really quick, and I didn't have one of the old ones to compare it to, but what I noticed right away was the protein blend, which is the first ingredient on the list of ingredients on there. The protein blend is normally on a Quest bar whey protein isolate and then milk protein isolate. So for anybody who doesn't know how to read a nutrition label, basically if it's a blend of protein, the first ingredient is what's more prominent in the bar. So if it's whey protein isolate and then milk protein, that means mostly it's made of whey protein and a little bit of milk protein. They had actually swapped that on the new label. That was the first thing that stood out to me. I noticed
That's a no-no for Big Pete.
Yeah, it was milk protein over whey protein isolate. And yeah, everybody knows I'm a big fan of the whey protein isolate.
Wait,
so that was a little bit
backing up
disappointing to see.
A little nutrition 101 here. Usually when you read nutrition labels, the first item on the nutrition profile is usually what it consists of. So the first thing before was whey protein isolate. So that means that majority of the bar was whey protein isolate. Now majority of the bar is milk protein isolate. So that's a big no-no for Pete.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed with that. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I eat Quest bars all the time too, and I pretty much go primarily for whey protein isolate in anything that I do use as a protein source. So, they're kind of taking that out and putting more milk protein into it, which is definitely not optimal.
That's called big business, my friend. That's called literally trying to squeeze every penny out of your margins and trying to, and rightfully so. Quest is a big company now, and literally you can go in any store and Quest bars are there. I mean, you told me that you pick them up at Red Mango. I think that's insane. Red Mango, for those of you that don't know, is like a frozen yogurt place, but you can literally get a Quest bar anywhere, 7-Eleven, anywhere. So I guess they're just trying to bring up their profits, and that's business. That's what happens. But sometimes when you do that, you sacrifice. And did the bar taste different?
Yeah, that was the biggest thing. A few people told me that it tasted more like cardboard, and that's the one knock that a lot of people have on Quest bars in general. The people who don't like them always say, oh, it's dry, it tastes like cardboard. And I never really thought that until I had one of these new bars, and it actually did taste a little more dry than what I'm used to. So the flavoring is definitely not the same. I'm not really too worried about the extra gram of fat or the extra 10 calories, whatever it is. A few people commented that, the calories were slightly different. It's still pretty much the same. It might be off by a couple, but each bar is. More so the taste than anything actually changed, which was a little disappointing.
Well, that's not a good thing. Once the taste starts changing, that's usually trouble because Quest bars are awesome. But anyway, this episode's not about Quest bars. This episode is about tracking your macros. And today we got on a good guest. His name is Jason. I'm definitely going to say his name wrong. Lowry, like Mike Lowry from Bad Boys 2.
Like
But
Larry, Larry.
he Jason's an awesome guy. He actually created two apps. He created My Macros Plus and My Workout Plus. And I'm super excited to actually have him on because I think it's cool. It's a little different niche in the fitness industry to create an app. And I'm a big MyFitnessPal. And for those of you that know about that, I've logged into MyFitnessPal for like a ridiculous amount of days. So you guys can actually follow me on MyFitnessPal, and it's Ant Bev Bev Fitness. And I've been getting like random followers for some reason, so I don't know if it's anyone from the podcast following me, but if it is, just say, give me a hello on there, and you could come and look at what I'm eating all day, and it's not that very exciting, but, if you're on there, let me know. But anyway, he created My Macros Plus, which is kind of like a company that rivals MyFitnessPal, so kind of excited to have him on. I have used My Macros Plus before. Have you, Pete?
I've used it very briefly. I know you showed it to me. I hadn't used it until you introduced it to me, and I've played around with it a little bit, but I really haven't used it in terms of logging all my food and keeping an actual daily track of it. So I don't really have too much experience with it. But, some of the few features you told me about on it are pretty interesting and kind of, has some of the things that MyFitnessPal lacks. So it's really cool that a bodybuilder came out with, a calorie counting app rather than just the average person.
I think I'm kind of curious on how he actually went about doing it because I think it's so cool to have an app. I think that's a different way to, earn some money and, have something out there in the world that's different. Because I have a vision to have like a workout app that I want to do. So he has a workout app and like a logging app. Because for those of you that know, I'm big on workout journals. I think it's super important to have one because, just the same way you track your food every day, you got to track your workouts to understand what's going on. So we'll see what he has to say about all that stuff, and let's see if he can convert me over to a MyFitnessPal user or not. I mean, a My Macros user or not. So, but anyway, what else is new with you, Pete? Man, I don't see you anymore.
Yeah, I know. It's funny. We used to train every morning, then go to work together. So we see each other all the time. Now we're just keeping up, here and there, and then we have the podcast. But, I'm still keeping busy, still training. My training itself has altered a little bit in the last couple of weeks just because I'm kind of working around a little bit of injuries here. Anthony, for you guys who don't know, and if I haven't said it enough already, he's basically a mutant, so he's immune to those type of injuries. So when we train together, I get beat up and I get injured and I have to take time off and adjust my training. Anthony kind of just keeps pushing it forward, but, that works for him. My training's been a little bit different. It's not as powerlifting intensive right now, but I'm still, increasing my calories, kind of slowly reverse dieting up. I'm pretty much in the off season now, I'd say, and my body's actually just starting to respond to the calories now. The last couple of weeks, for a while, I just kept increasing, and the weight didn't go up. And I put on, I'm saying in the last 2 weeks, I added another about 1.5 pounds. It kind of just jumps. That's something that happens with reverse dieting that not a lot of people are aware of. Your body will stay steady for a long time, and then when you kind of hit the numbers where you're really pushing the off season, you might see little fluctuations that are like 1 pound here and there. But who knows? It might come back off. The body doesn't always respond the same way every single time.
Yeah. Well, your body, your body better than anyone else, and you're on top of your macros more than anyone I know, so I'm sure you'll figure that out, and I'm sure you'll be fine. But too bad we don't train together anymore. It's so funny because we were both beat up after the last meet. We ran a small off block. For those of you that know what that is, it's like a Russian strength program. It's insane. It's like squatting 5 days a week, super heavy. And we also did it for bench, and we ran it for both. And we were kind of beat up after the meet. Pete swears it was from, we used a little bit of nose torque on the last lift, so he swears that's what did it. But it's funny, we deloaded last week. Well, I deloaded last week. Pete did all as well. And this week has been an awesome week for me in the gym. I've been killing it. Everything is feeling light again, so I think I'm back. I got my mojo back, so I'm super excited going into nationals now because the beginning of last week, I was like, oh man, I don't know if I can actually do this anymore. Nationals, this is torture, and took a deload when we needed it, and I I feel back. So we'll see, trying to crush some things at nationals and hopefully get to the Arnold.
That's good, man. I mean, I'm glad that you're definitely back. I mean, I think both of us, like you said, we're feeling that way. You know, for anybody who trains hard, they know the feeling of just being extremely beat up from your training cycle and needing that little deload. And what happens is when you kind of have that overreaching symptoms and that overtraining symptoms, when you're kind of right there where you've been training really hard, not only does your body feel beat up, your mind is just not there. You know, and me and you are probably two of, you know, the most motivated people when it comes to training and dieting and powerlifting and bodybuilding and reaching personal records. But we get days and even a week where we feel unmotivated, you know, and that definitely comes from all that intense training. But we know we get right back on it. It's funny. I had this conversation with Anthony. He knows what I'm talking about, but you guys don't, because I haven't mentioned it on the show. This has been, you know, since I started training, I think when I was 14. I'm 26 now. This last week after this small cycle that we finished in this powerlifting meet, this last week is the first time since I started training where I was completely unmotivated to train or to diet to any, you know, extensive degree for more than a day or two. Like, it lasted about a whole week after the cycle. That's how brutal it was leading up to this meet. So anybody who talks about Smolov and how brutal it is and how much it basically beats you up, you're really not going to understand it until you do it. I told somebody else that it did work out in my favor and I did get stronger. I can't take anything away from the program, but I don't know if I'll ever do it again. That's how brutal it was on me, to be totally honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not something you know, obviously I wanted to bring up my squat, and figured that was be the best way to do it. So that's why we kind of ran that. And it was actually, Pete gained a lot more than just strength. I mean, he hit a PR in a meet, which is like unheard of. Normally you don't hit any type of a lifetime PR in a meet. Pete did that.
Yeah.
And his form also changed. He got a lot better with his form. He was dipping down a lot lower, and you know, you went 3 for 3 on squats, I believe, right?
Yeah, 3 for 3 on squats. And honestly, that last the PR I had probably wasn't a max. It was close. I'd say it was probably about 90-95% that day.
No way, man. That was like an 8.5 for you.
Yeah, I definitely feel like I could have got a few more pounds out of that, but I was happy with that. It was 10 pounds heavier than I ever hit in the gym, and the max I had hit in the gym, Anthony said, was pretty questionable. This one was rock bottom, you know. So, and I definitely noticed it too. I went back and looked at the video. I hit a personal. My best in the gym lift was nowhere near as smooth as this one. So anybody who's looking to bring up the squat, that is definitely the program to do it if you want to just spend a little 3 or 4 weeks specializing on the squats. But be prepared, because it will beat you up.
It won't beat you up if you're wearing one of our New York Muscle Radio T-shirts.
Yep, that'll keep you protected. It's kind of like the Superman shield.
Yeah, so you guys can pick those up at NewYorkMuscleRadio.com. Pete finally did it. He went on and he actually put the shirts in the store for us. So thank Pete. Go on his Instagram at Jacked Fitness, JAKKED Fitness, and thank him for the shirts. And if you want to follow my powerlifting journey, you can follow me on Instagram too at AB Fitness, and you'll see all the cool stuff that I always post. I'm always posting something crazy or something cool. So check us out there. But today we're gonna listen to Jason Loewy. I'm going with Lowery, like Bad Boys too. So we're gonna have him on. But first, let's go to a quick commercial break, and we'll be right back.
Do you want to get in the best shape of your life? Discover how you can get best-selling author, muscle and fitness writer, and world-renowned trainer Anthony Bevilacqua to take you by the hand and personally guide you one-on-one to the body you've always wanted. Visit abfitnesstrainer.com for more information. At A Plus Meals, we specialize in healthy yet gourmet meal prep. With over a combined 15 years in the fitness industry and over 30 years in food service, A Plus Meals is a premier choice when searching for your next healthy meal. Being started by 2 nutritionists, these meals are designed to help you reach any goal on your fitness journey. We now offer a wide variety of meals on our menu, as well as snacks and desserts. Order now by visiting our website, aplusmeals.com.
All right, guys, we're back. New York Muscle Radio, episode number 35. It's your host, Anthony Bevilacqua, along with my co-host here, Pete Kacharin. And we got on the line here, Jason, I'm definitely going to say this wrong, Loewy?
Loewy. Close enough.
Loewy.
You're not the first, you won't be the last.
Loewy was the guy from Bad Boys 2.
Loewy.
Loewy. But Jason is a guy who created an app called My Macros Plus, and we're going to get into that. So it kind of leads into today's episode, which is all about tracking macros. So we're going to talk a little bit about the importance of tracking macros and what does it mean. So let's jump right into it. Let's ask Jason. We'll start with him. What does it mean to actually track your macros?
Sure. So obviously, macros is protein, carbs, and fat. It kind of makes up the calorie calculation for people's diets. And basically, the counting macros is just one way to go about your diet. It gives you, it kind of ties into the whole flexible dieting thing that's going on right now. That as long as you hit your macronutrients, by the end of the day, you'll have your calorie expenditure that you need. And it gives you a little bit more flexibility. You don't have to just focus on those, clean eating style of foods. You can kind of hit foods that are more comfortable to you, all by hitting your macros.
Yeah, I like to look at it like a budget. You're kind of giving yourself a budget of what you're allowed to eat for the day. A certain amount of protein, a certain amount of carbs, and a certain amount of fat. And I think this episode is going to be helpful to people because I have a lot of online clients who are just getting into tracking macros, and it can be very overwhelming in the beginning and very confusing. So, like we said, it's definitely like a budget as far as your nutrition goes, focusing on how many grams of protein, carbs, and fat, and it allows you to lead a more flexible lifestyle. Pete, how many years have you been doing flexible dieting?
Oh, wow. I've been doing it now. I'd have to say, I don't know, probably close to 10 years. I mean, the funny thing, and both of you guys could definitely attest to this, I feel like, and I've said this before many times, that before the term "if it fits your macros" came out, we've been doing this way before, even before it was called flexible dieting. This used to just be called dieting for us. There was people who followed the typical bro diet or clean eating, but then, when we started, all of us competed before. When we started contest prepping, we just basically measured our food and we tracked our calories. Like, it was just called dieting. So I don't really consider, what I was doing in the past any different, but, with the new acronyms out and everything, people associate it to something completely different.
Yeah. And, to a degree, I'm the same way. I've been working out forever, and I always just logged my food online. I had a target that I tried to hit, and if I hit it, the closer I got, the better. But I did sometimes when I was ever getting ready for competitions, I did kind of fall in line with the whole clean eating style, a little bit of contest prep. But I remember the first time, my second series of contest prep, I actually worked with Lane Norton, and he gave me like sort of the suggested food list. And I remember there was like baked chips on there, and it kind of blew my mind a little bit. I'm like, wait, I can have this during contest prep? And that's when I started getting a little bit more into the whole macros versus clean food and stuff like that. And that was back in 2009. And that kind of took it to a whole other level for me.
Yeah, I started tracking, I think, in 2005 or something like that. It was ridiculous. I was actually using paper and pen back then. So when people come to me nowadays and they're like, "Oh man, it's so hard to track macros," I'm like, I did it with paper and pen.
Yeah,
you have no idea what I went through.
I've done whole contest preps on paper and pen before. I mean
every
looking
once
back,
in a while,
it's
I'll
crazy.
get someone that is using paper and pen now, and I'm just like, no, please, just let me give you my.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's exactly what I did. Paper and pen. I can't even tell you how many times I lost the paper during the day.
I mean, that's one of the main reasons why I came out with the workout tracking app, is just because I kept losing my workout log every time I would leave it at the gym.
Yeah, and I'm a big believer in workout journals, but that's a whole nother story because I think that's also important. And the one thing that I like about tracking macros is it gives you kind of like a base to understand and learn your body, because I think that's important. There's so many people, everybody's body's different, and you read one thing and it says one thing to do one thing, high carb, low carb, this, that, the other thing. And when you're actually tracking macros and you have this documentation down, you could tell what works for you and what doesn't. I mean, one day me and Pete were going back in my my FitDay account, which I've been logging in there for so long already. I went back 3 years ago to what I was eating when I was bulking, and it was cool to actually go back and actually see that, how many grams I was eating of this and that. So it was cool to go back and evaluate. So I think it gives you also a system of measurement for your diet and your specific body.
Yeah, and I think, it lets you, to a degree, lead more of a normal life, because if you're tracking your macros when you're on a normal schedule, and when things go a little different, you go out to eat, it's a lot easier to kind of eyeball things if you do have a baseline of measurement.
Yeah, agreed. So what are some ways to track your macros? I mean, we mentioned paper and pen, but now we live in this is 2015 now. So, obviously there's different macro tracking apps, and Jason actually has one that's called My Macros Plus. I actually downloaded and used it for a little bit of time, and it was a pretty good app. It's the one thing I like about it's pretty precise, and it's kind of like FitDay and what I used FitDay for so many years. FitDay, where you put your own food in, and everything is pretty much down to a T. There's MyFitnessPal. There's so many different ones. Jason obviously uses My Macros.
I'm a little biased.
Yeah. Pete, what do you use?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I'm a little bit limited, honestly, with my different experience with macro counting apps. Like I said, I've done paper and pen during contest preps, and the first time I actually converted over to some type of calorie tracking app was definitely FitDay, which I didn't have an app. I don't even know if I've never used the app. I use it just on my desktop, so it's still kind of a pain. I'd have to log onto my computer every single time I ate a meal. But then from there, the only other one I believe I've used is MyFitnessPal.
But I know Pete didn't upgrade to that custom version or whatever premium version.
Yeah.
There's a premium version to MyFitnessPal where you could put in your own macros and exactly what you want put by the macro. So if you're supposed to get 240 grams of carbs, let's just say, MyFitnessPal has that option. Pete doesn't do that, so he's limited to exactly how many grams. So how do you do it? Because yours is confusing. I would die if I had to go through yours.
So I mean, I also started on I started using FitDay myself back in high school, 2005 also probably. And the biggest problem I think with today's diet tracking apps is that most of them are made by businessmen, and they don't really realize what's necessarily important to people that are really trying to track. Like for example, the fact that MyFitnessPal Premium doesn't allow you. I mean, without Premium, it doesn't allow you to set your macro goals by gram is, I think, a little crazy because you're boasting this tool that's supposed to help people lose weight and you're restricting them so severely. Obviously, you want precision, and it's kind of hard to have precision if you're only setting percentages. The biggest thing I think when is just finding what works for you. Everyone's going to be different. Not everyone's going to have the same goals, the same tech savviness or whatever. And it's really just finding what works for you. Hopefully it's My Macros that works best for you. If not, it's just finding a tool that you can be consistent with. The biggest thing that I focused on when creating My Macros Plus was that I wanted to make it easy. I wanted you to be able to add a food within 3 taps of the phone. Because the biggest reason, in my opinion, is why people kind of fail tracking macros is because they think it takes too long. And I understand that if you have to spend a half hour every day to sit behind your computer and track your macros, it's very likely that you're going to fall off. So the biggest thing is just finding a tool that works for you, that allows you to be consistent, and just tracking consistently and watching how your body changes based off of that.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. I think that people want everything to be easy, but the 5 to 10 minutes it actually takes to put the stuff in, your macro counting tool that you're using, I think it's a good investment in yourself because, like you said, consistency over time is what's really going to yield results. And if that 5 minutes means I'm going to get more results, that's fine. I think I logged into MyFitnessPal. Let's see, because it tells you. Just to give you guys an example, when I say consistency over time, I was telling someone the other day, I haven't had a cheat day, quote unquote, where I didn't track macros. Just on MyFitnessPal alone, I've logged in for 637 days. So,
see, and the great thing about that, I think, is that if you didn't want to track your macros for say 3 to 4 months, you'd probably make exactly the same progress if you did, just because you've done it so long and kind of it's given you that eyeball ability. So,
exactly. It also kind of gives me a little bit of reassurance as well.
Yeah.
So that's why I think it's so important to people to track macros. So let's back up a little bit. We know you competed in the past in bodybuilding and whatnot. You always counted your macros, as you said, but you did follow the bro type diets. Talk a little bit more about the macro counting versus the bro type diets.
Sure. So I started working out in seriously in 9th grade. Get ready for, because I was going to play varsity football in 10th grade, so I was trying to gain some size or whatever. And I started, my idea of health has evolved, every year over year. So obviously, what I thought was a good thing to do in 9th grade is a different thing that I think to do now. And I started really tracking my diet in 11th grade. I didn't really track it with any goals in mind. I just kind of tracked it to, I thought that was the thing you're supposed to do when you work out. I ate kind of whatever, not really whatever I wanted, but, I ate healthy things. My definition of healthy things was probably a little looser than it is at certain points of my life. But when it came down to contest prep, so the first time I ever competed, I did a ketogenic diet, and I felt like I was going to die. So the second time around, I worked with, I still, every time I dieted, I had sort of like the ingrained mindset of, vegetables, broccoli, chicken, tilapia, sweet potatoes, brown rice. Even though I've always hated brown rice, but it was from what my thing was a thing to do. And then, as I said, the second time I competed back in 2009, I ended up working with Lane Norton, thankfully, and he kind of like helped broaden my horizon. That you can have a wider variety of food as long as it keeps you satisfied and things like that. And ever since then, it's kind of just continued to expand of what is kind of like the more normal aspect of lifestyle dieting.
Yeah. So, and when you followed the bro type diet, I guess you still were counting macros, right?
Yeah, of course. So I mean, I would loosely say I followed a bro type diet, very very loosely. In my off season, I never did. My off season, so I have a really fast metabolism. So I eat over 4,000 calories. Me and a bro type diet really don't mix. What I mean in terms of like me following more of a bro type diet is when I would get to like an actual fat loss phase is when I would start to really restrict my food into the brown rice, sweet potatoes, those type of things. And that's kind of where I went with the bro type diet until I started working kind of with Lane, and he kind of opened up my eyes a little bit to not being that restricted. And now, I mean, I'm so far away from the bro type diet now that it's not funny.
So what were your macros when you were dieting, and kind of what are they now?
So last time I competed was 2012. I started off my diet at about, well, I guess I did a mini cut this past last summer, so that's probably more accurate representation. So I started off my diet at about 270 grams of protein, 400 grams of carbs, and about 100 grams of fat. When I finished my diet, I was 220 pounds about. When I finished my diet, I was at 270 grams of carbs, about 55 grams of fat, and same amount of protein. And I was 198 pounds. Yes. So after that, actually, this was my first real reverse diet, which, is a whole other topic in itself. But this is my first real reverse diet after this mini diet that I did last summer. And I got my macros up to 500 grams of carbs, 90 grams of fat, and 250 grams of protein, and I actually lost about 4 pounds.
That's awesome. So this is why it's so important to track your macros, because now you're able to play around with things like this. See, if he didn't have that kind of base to understand where he was at, he wouldn't be able to make those types of changes and jumps.
Yeah.
So as you can see, he's significantly eating more and still losing weight. So that's the key too. And I think when people don't track their macros, it's kind of like they're driving their car with the headlights off. I mean, you have no sense of direction as far as what you're eating. Every diet works, and I tell all my clients this too. Every diet works. Paleo diet works. Even Weight Watchers works. But the simple fact of the matter is your body sees those macronutrient numbers, and that's it. It doesn't see food type. So if you have those numbers and you're able to, track everything, you're able to see what's exactly going on, and you can manipulate things a little bit more. So
yeah, and to loosely quote one of your Sohi, what she says is if you're doing a diet that you can't see yourself doing in 6 months, 12 months, a year or whatever, then it's probably not going to work long term.
Yeah, of course, because consistency over time is going to bring results.
And that's the great thing about macros is that, you can generally do whatever you want as long as it falls in your macro budget.
Exactly. So if you and I use this scenario all the time. If you want birthday cake for your birthday, you can actually fit it in and not have to worry about
Yeah.
not making any progress. I mean, it sounds funny, but like a lot of people, I know a lot of clients that they haven't had cake in years because they think it's bad food. I mean, you shouldn't. Everyone should have their birthday cake, right?
And just think of that that negative mental relationship that you have with food if you don't think you can have cake on your birthday.
Yeah, 100%. Pete, what kind of cake did you have this year?
No cake for me this year, but I was craving some red mango. That's kind of like my, but red mango is normally in my diet, so I don't consider that anything special for my birthday. But I did have that with some candles in it.
All right, so this leads me into my next question. So tell the listeners how exactly and how and why you created My Macros Plus. So you used, My Fitness Pal, and you used, other things. What made you decide to actually go into creating an app? Like, where did that thought kind of come from? And how did you actually do it? What are the steps going about it? I mean, you don't got to get techie because I know we know you're a computer science guy, and me and Pete will be lost. But
So yeah, I mean, as I said, I started working out in I'm 26 now. I started working out when I was 14. In that time frame, I've gotten more and more serious about it, and I've used every single diet tracking app available. Fit Day, Livestrong, Daily Plate, MyFitnessPal, all this stuff, and it got to the point where I wasn't happy with every single one of them for one or two reasons. Whether they didn't have the macro breakdown per meal, or you can only add to breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack, or whatever. It's just too time consuming. So I was going to school for my master's in computer science at USC. And I was honestly dead set against creating a diet tracking app because there were so many out there. I figured it would just be a waste of time. But I just got to the point where I just bought another app for my iPad that was $8, and after 2 days I was done with it because of some reason or another. So I just kind of spent some time, just started brainstorming and just thinking, what do each one of these apps lack? What are good about them? What do I like? What do I not like? And then I just started working on it one night. It was actually funny. The initial prototype was a night where my friends were going out to a bar, and I'm like, nah, I'm just going to go stay home, go to sleep early. And they came back at 3 a.m, and I'm like, I'll check out this prototype of this app I made. So that's the initial story of it. But and it just continued to kind of evolve over time. I made it for me. I had no desire to release it at all. But then, I started talking to some of my friends that are also into bodybuilding and all that stuff. And they're like, no, you got to release it. So I did. That was back almost 4 years ago. And it's kind of just been evolving ever since. I started off with the core features and stuff like that, and it's been growing ever since in functionality and stuff like that. So I guess in terms of how do you actually build an app? So that's a very in-depth discussion. So that just from a very, very high level, it's good to have some kind of software development background. You don't need to, but it helps learning curve a lot. And then there are Apple. You have to have a Mac and stuff like that to develop for iOS. Apple has some development tools that you have to use called Xcode that is basically their development environment that allows you to kind of build, test, and deploy apps. So yeah, it's essentially, a 5-6 month process from thought to actually releasing an app. And I really don't know how in depth you want me to go about that, but
well, because there's a lot of other people who have created apps, but they kind of like outsource that to other people. And since you had that techie background, I'm guessing that you saved yourself a lot of money. I've never created an app before, but I know that tech stuff can get really expensive if you outsource it.
Yeah, and you never get the results that you want, at least from my experience, because they're not as invested in the project as you are. For example, if I also answer all the customer support emails that I get. So if someone tells me that something's not working, I immediately go into a panic and try to fix it. So that's the problem with outsourcing things. In my personal experience, is that they're just trying to get the project done. That's not always the case, but yeah, you save yourself a lot of money doing it yourself, but you don't save yourself a lot of time because it took a lot of time.
Yeah, and then that makes, Pete's pretty techie, but I don't think he can create an app, right, Pete?
No, it's funny. I know everything about developing things outside of a Mac. So
Mhm.
I would be completely lost right there. I'm not a Mac guy. I do like them, but I don't know. I guess I'm partial to PC.
Mhm.
I like Mac. I don't know. I'm a Mac guy now. I'm a Mac guy now. So you found, obviously, that the competition's out there for your app. Who do you feel like is your, I guess, chief, competition? Um, because I know you're ranking high in iTunes as well.
Yeah, we I made it up to sixth. The highest we've been is sixth for paid health and fitness apps. We're generally in the top 10. Obviously, the girl in the room is my fitness pal. But they sold to Under Armour for a bunch of money, $470 million to be exact.
Wow.
Holy
But
crap.
so, yeah, that was just recently actually. But I mean, biggest competition, I'm not really concerned with it, honestly, and I know that's probably a stupid thing to go about it. I feel like I've made a superior product that people like, and I feel like I'm going to continue making it better. Obviously there's always going to be new competition coming up, and there's really nothing that I can do about that. I wasn't the first diet tracking app to come out. I won't be the last. I just feel like between my technical background and my fitness background, I feel like I have a leg up on most people that are going to come try to break into the market. Like, for example, I was at the Los Angeles Fit Expo this year, and that was basically right after my Fitness Pal sold to Under Armour. And, me and my friends were just walking around or whatever. We found another company that was demoing there for a diet tracking website. And I started talking to them, not really, mentioning who I was, what I do, or whatever like that. And the first thing they said was, "Oh, we're going to be the next MyFitnessPal that sells for so much money." And I think that's the bad mindset that people get into, is they go into this because they think it's a good business model and a good business opportunity, and that's not really why I'm in it. I'm in it because I made this tool that I thought was really useful. It's nice that I can help people in the fitness industry without being a coach or something like that. And whether I make a dime off of it or whether I make nothing off of it, I'm going to keep working on it because I feel it's valuable to people. The positive feelings that I get from people telling me that I lost 20 pounds, my boyfriend lost 50 pounds using your app. It helps me kind of quantify my food. I think that's kind of why I'm not too worried about competition. I obviously keep my ear to the ground, but I'm not too worried about it.
So, and I know, because I know MyFitnessPal has, and this is the one thing that I hate about their app, is like they make their recommendations based. So if you want to lose weight, it picks like a random number for you to, like whatever their formula is. Do you have something with that with my macros as well? So if I was new to tracking macros and I downloaded your app, would I be able to just kind of plug in my stuff and you would recommend something to me, or?
So I have a nutrition calculator in there. I was a little bit reluctant to put it in because of how much of an estimate it is. Even like people that try to estimate their calories burned in workout apps, it's such a rough figure. It's there's so many factors that go into it. So I was a little bit reluctant to put it in, but there was so much demand for it, so I put a nutrition calculator in the app. And I make it very clear that they're estimates, kind of starting points. And I also, something that I do, which I don't think any other app does, is I have kind of a bottom line that no matter what input they put in, I won't go below in terms of calories. So like, some people say they want to unrealistically lose 4 pounds a week or something like that. And in order to do that, based off their body weight, they'll have to eat off the calculation, we'll have to say they have to eat like 600 calories a day, which is not healthy. So I won't let it suggest less than 1,350 calories for females. Just kind of like a safety feature type of thing. A lot of these, sometimes people will email me and say, "Oh, so such and such app told me that in order to meet my goals, I need to have 900 calories a day, whereas yours says 1,350. And I'm like, yeah, it's because you shouldn't be eating that low, no matter what your goals are.
That's awesome. That's admirable of you, because I know, and especially I think I find that obviously more with women. They think that they need no calories to lose weight, and
And you're just setting you up for failure in the future. You might lose the weight, and it might be great for a couple weeks, but you're long term gonna fail.
Yep.
So when you set up this your app, after using all these other apps, did you I know you're coming from a bodybuilding background, so did you focus this more with, fitness enthusiasts and bodybuilders in mind rather than the average person? Because I feel like Fit Day, MyFitnessPal and everything, they set it up kind of just for everyday people. So the recommendations they give are obviously a little bit different than a physique athlete or something like that. Do you have, like, based on how you set it up, do you feel that it's targeted more towards a specific crowd of people, that the way you have it set up?
Yeah, definitely, and really for 2 or 3 reasons. I mean, the first reason is that, as I said, I made this app originally for me, and originally had no plans on releasing it. So what I wanted was for more of like a little more serious kind of trackers. And with that, I made sure that you can have, infinite number of meals that you add food to. You can rename them anything you want. Like, you're not just stuck into breakfast, lunch, dinner, snack. You can have pre-workout, post-workout, breakfast, lunch, pre-bed, whatever, inter-workout meal, whatever you want. And I made sure that one of the biggest negatives that I had with all the tools out there was that they only broke the nutrition values down per food item and per day. And, a lot of people, myself included, likes to have bigger carb meals pre and post workout. So I would have to add up each individual food item's carbs and determine how much I'm eating. And that, my opinion of all these apps is they're supposed to make your life easier, not give you more work to do. So when I was doing manual calculations in my head before I would, log my meals, I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I made sure that we have the nutrition information for every single meal, not just day and food. And
yeah, I think that's a really awesome feature in your app, and that's the one thing that I think sets you guys apart, and I agree with you on that.
And one of the best things in my opinion is that when you add a custom food item, this might sound weird in the first place, but when you add a custom food item, it saves it as one of that serving. So for example, if I was inputting like peanut butter or something like that, and I can put it in straight as the label says, 32 grams of 32 grams per serving, 16 grams of fat, 7 grams of carbs, 8 grams of protein, whatever it is. And then when you hit save, it does all the calculations for you, so it saves as 1 gram. That way, when you go in, you don't have to input it as multiples of 32. You can just say, okay, I want to have 17 grams. I want to have 19 grams this time. Whereas other apps, you have to input it as multiples of the initial serving size that you put in.
Yeah, that was the one thing that I noticed too that was really cool. There was a lot of cool features with it that I liked. I said, you could tell a bodybuilder made this.
my whole point is making it easy. Because as I said, the biggest reason that people fall off is because it takes time and it's a pain. And I just, myself included, is why I would ever stop tracking it. It's because it would just be taking too much time. So, I've tracked almost every single day that I've had the app live because it's just simple.
Yeah, plus it gives you, more experience with your app, obviously. More
yes, testing.
Yes, exactly. So I know that I noticed that you had on your Facebook page that you have sponsored athletes. So I'm just curious, what do the sponsored athletes do for your brand, and what do they get by being a sponsored athlete?
So it's really just in terms of what right now we have 2 athletes sponsored. We have Alessandra Danielle, who's on Instagram as Fit Girl Moves. She's awesome. And then we have Katie Rutherford, who I'm sure is a complete rock star in the figure and powerlifting world. This we just started the sponsorship program this year. They're the only 2 athletes that we sponsor right now. And really, something that I dislike about the fitness industry is how a lot of it is kind of shady. Just the before and after picture style advertisements. I'm not a big fan of those. So what I look for in sponsoring athletes is really just people that have good morals, pushing the same message that I am, flexible dieting, knowledge is power, all that kind of stuff. And those 2 girls really exemplify that. So, I mean, I guess what they get in return is, I help them with their, obviously I'm not a supplement company, so I can't send them free stuff. But, I help them with their entry fees in competitions and monetary things like that.
Okay, and then in turn they promote obviously your app.
Yeah, the big thing that I look for is just really social involvement. Obviously, they are promoting a good message that I feel, is a positive impact on the fitness industry. And I like that, they use the app before ever contacting them. And it's really just social involvement, social media presence and stuff like that. I don't really do trade shows, so there's never any responsibility with that. So it's really just online presence.
So are you looking to expand, this app more into the bodybuilding and fitness world, or is this something that you're trying to, I know you said you're doing this more just to help people rather than turn it into a business, but are you trying to, grab more people and help more people in the bodybuilding and fitness community, or is this something that you think could be more of a mainstream type tool?
Actually, as of hopefully tonight, if I get the email sent out, we're going to be starting beta test. I guess by the time this goes live, I'll have started beta testing the web version. Web version is, obviously the restriction right now is that you have to have an iOS device in order to use the app. So in order to make it completely platform agnostic, the web version is coming out. It should be live within the next month. So definitely looking to expand it. In a short answer, the web version is going to, I think, really help reach more people, and then just always continue to grow, make the app better. Obviously I listen to a lot of customer support and stuff like that, so always looking to improve.
Are you going to be charging for the website version of it?
So there's going to be a I guess premium version, but it's going to be $1.99 a month. And I'm working on, while it's in beta, it's only going to be for paid users, but there's going to be a free version which lets you do almost everything.
That's cool. That'd be like a gateway for people to actually come in and start using the app.
Yeah. Because, obviously MyFitnessPal charges way too much. I don't want to do that.
Yeah, I think it's like $50 for the year or something like
that.
Yeah,
so
premium.
My current pricing plan is going to be $199 a month or $20 for a year.
Got it. So now, really quick question, because I think this is a good question. Obviously, you've used, MyFitnessPal. Are there things that you like about MyFitnessPal versus things that you want to put in MyMacros Plus?
The biggest thing that I can't deny they're better than me at is the database size. That's something that in the next update to MyMacros Plus is going to change. Because currently with MyMacros Plus, we just have about 40,000 preset food items, and then you can add your own custom ones. But we're going to expand it to, I think, a little bit over 2 million in the next update. So that should be out in the next month to 2 months at the longest. And that's the biggest thing that I envy of them. I mean, it has its pluses and its negatives because their food database is crowdsourced, so we wanted to make sure that we have a good verification system in place before we go that route. Like, for example, someone actually emailed me customer support a little while ago, and they were complaining to me. They're like, I logged this piece of sirloin steak on MyFitnessPal, and it told me there was 50 grams of protein, 1 gram of fat, and 20 calories. Why does yours say that it's 400 something calories? I'm like, well, if you calculate it out, you'll see that MyMacros Plus is correct. And I'm assuming that someone inputted that in MyFitnessPal incorrectly, and they're like, oh, okay, thank you. So, I mean, that's the biggest thing that we want to make sure that we're not giving people misinformation, or if it is a food that was added by someone else, clearly stating, you might want to check this first.
Yeah, I mean, and I know MyMacros Plus also, if you just put the macros in on something, let's say you're not sure of the calories, it also adds the calories up for you. So I think that's a really cool part of it as well.
Yeah, and also there's a lot of leeway on nutrition labels that companies actually have. So if you were to input the nutrition, calories, everything, and if the actual calculated calories are over 100 calories off of what you input, it'll correct it for you because, companies have a lot of leeway with what they can actually list on the label.
Yeah, I own a meal prep company in New York, and I think that with nutrition labels, you're allowed 20% margin of error.
Which is pretty significant.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah, I found that actually, I mean, this goes back a little bit to making progress with tracking macros and versus not doing it. But, I find that one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people have when tracking macros and reaching their goal is the actual measurements that they're inputting into whatever app they are is not always reflecting the exact amount they're eating. And I think that's one of the biggest things that I find for people having trouble counting macros. I mean, you might have a little bit more experience with this considering that you designed the app, but I mean, from what people who don't have success with tracking their macros, flexible dieting, do you find that there's other things that they are doing wrong that they're having problems with that maybe you could point them in the right direction to correcting that? Because that's usually the one thing that I find the most whenever I have a client or somebody not making progress but they're tracking their macros, is usually their measurements are just off. If they eat, let's say, a serving of rice and they put in that it was 1 cup of rice when in reality they were eating 2 cups of rice, without the measuring process, they're kind of off. I don't know if you find anything like that or if you have other experience with people not having as much success with it, that maybe there's one area they need to fix on.
I mean, the biggest thing is I think just consistency. Like, I really think you should weigh out your food if possible. Obviously you can eyeball some meals, and that's the benefit of, sort of tracking for a long time and getting an idea of what, 1 cup of rice really looks like. But the biggest thing is, in my opinion, is consistency. For example, so a lot of people, I always see the question, do you weigh your chicken cooked or raw? And I think it really doesn't matter. I think as long as you are always doing the same thing, you'll make progress.
It's funny. I'll tell a little quick story here. Pete one day texted me, and he actually goes,
"Oh my God, I know where this is going." Yeah, I still don't have the answer to this, but go ahead.
Maybe he'll have it. He has a big database. Yeah. Maybe he will. So anyway, Pete actually texted me one day, and he's like, "Yo, do you have the numbers for ground turkey cooked?" So, because obviously it's different when it's cooked versus when it's raw. So I told him, I said, well, I just use, whatever comes up. 93.7 is usually the standard, and I just kind of go with that. I don't really know if it's cooked or raw. So we went into this whole thing about how we're going to find this out. He actually called Purdue, which I have done in the past, actually, and they've answered.
Hey, what are the macros?
I've actually done that, and they've actually answered that question. So I suggested that to him. He called, and they couldn't answer the question, right, Pete?
No, they didn't have that information. They actually said, they told me to read the label, and I said, well, the label suggests that it's raw, and I wanted to know if you had the macros for cooked, because it is significantly different, especially when it's a fatty piece of meat. If it's something like chicken, it doesn't change that much. But 93 lean, the difference could be pretty significant in terms of the fat content, especially when you're eating. Like that day, the reason I asked him was that day I happened to have 2 or 3 meals of it, so I was eating, close to, I don't know how many ounces it was. It was well over maybe a pound and a half. That's going to make a significant difference if it was raw or cooked by a few hundred calories.
Yeah, for sure.
That's but really funny, I still don't have the answer, to be honest.
You should escalate it. Try to get to an executive, find out.
Yeah. You would think if you call the company, they would have that information, but
I can't even imagine what that customer service person went home and told their family. You'll never guess what this person just called me and asked me today. I have no idea.
But it was a legit question, and I think that
for sure.
This brings us back to the point of accuracy. The thing with MyFitnessPal, the one thing that I really don't like is some of the things you could scan with your barcode and it'll come up. The other day my daughter had a snack pack pudding thing, and she didn't finish it, so I was like, oh, whatever, I'll have it. So I just scanned the thing quick, and I ate it, and then I looked, and it didn't have, they had the carbs in the sodium section, so it was it was no carbs coming from that, and I couldn't go back and edit that meal, so I had to search for it again. It's just a real pain when it didn't have to be. So I think that the accuracy in putting the food in there is really important, and this is good for clients who are listening to this as well, because don't be afraid to go in there and edit foods and add custom foods in. Don't be afraid to make those changes, because as you can see, Pete might have been a little anal with that, but there was logic behind it. He didn't want to sacrifice those 100 calories when he didn't have to, especially because he was dieting and it was important to him at the time. So I think that this comes back to making sure that your log is accurate.
Yeah, if you want the peace of mind, it doesn't take that long to add a custom food. If you want to be 100% sure.
Yeah, and you have to be careful too with some of the foods that you do scan. I don't know if you guys have run into this problem before too, and I found this with foods specifically from Trader Joe's. A lot of times I'll scan the barcode, and I might be eating something like ground beef, and when I scan it, it might say it's something like fish, or it might even say
something totally off,
something completely different where the macros are. You know what I mean? It's not even close. It's totally different food category, and if you're not paying attention and you just scan it and hit 1, your macros might be completely different.
Yep. Yeah, you always just got to keep an eye out. Try to be as perfect as we can, but sometimes there's little mismatches, and just.
All right, Jason. So I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot here. So
Oh, great.
I've been using my Fitness Pal for 600 whatever days I said. So
Hmm.
why is my macros plus? And for those of you who are listening, I'm not trying to bash him or anything. I want to know. Convert me over to using my macros. Convert me
Sure.
over to using it because I've used your app before and I know the quality of it and I know that there's people out here who are using my Fitness Pal, the free version, and it's not as good. And my macros plus is a good tool. So convince me.
Sure. So, I mean, first and foremost, you can set your nutrition goals by gram, which you can't do anymore on MyFitnessPal. That I think is selling it enough. You can have multiple nutrition goals that you can cycle on whatever day you are. So you can do things like carb cycling, high low days, whatever you want to do. As I mentioned, you can have infinite number of meals. You're not restricted whatsoever in terms of the meals that you can add food to. So if you want to have, pre, post workout, whatever you want to call them, you can have any type of meal that you would like. We have the nutrition value breakdown for every single food, every single day, and every single meal that you have. You can see directly how your nutrition impacts your weight. And as I said, one of the biggest things is how easy it is to add custom food. You just input it right as it is off the label, and it saves it as one. That way you can have complete free-form serving size input moving forward. And it really, I like to think that I developed the app with the fact that you're tracking on a phone in mind. So I made it as easy as possible. You can add food within 3 taps on your phone. It takes me under a minute to log an entire meal. You can copy meals from one day to another. So I know a lot of people like us eat similar meals every single day. I personally have the same breakfast every single day. So I'll just go to the previous day, copy it over. It takes about 10 seconds. So the thing that I liked to think that I did with my Macros Plus was made it very easy to use for the power user. And I consider people that track 600 plus days in a row power users.
Yeah, and like you said, I think there's a lot of cool options in there. The one thing that I also want to touch upon really quick is, like he mentioned, copying a meal is one thing that's important when tracking your macros. It's important to, you know, prepare your day in advance. Don't be afraid to actually pre-plan your day. So if you're one of those people that it says it takes a lot of time for you to, track your macros and stuff, pre-plan your day. Don't be afraid to go ahead and, while you're lying in bed right before you go to sleep, plan out what you're going to eat for tomorrow and fit the macros 100% and then just go about the day. Don't use it as an excuse of, oh, it takes too much time or, oh,
Oh yeah, for
it's too
sure.
complicated. Take time out and make that investment in yourself, and it's definitely going to be an investment well worth it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really how much effort do you want to, how much do you want to reach your goals? It's a little bit of time in order to make improvements to your lifestyle.
Yep, agreed. Jason, I want you to tell us a little bit more about My Workout Plus. So Jason also has an awesome training journal, I guess we can call it, app where you could log your workouts in. And for most of you listening to this, you guys know that I'm a big component of using a workout journal. I think it's super important, the same way it is to log your macros every day. So tell us a little bit about that, because that I
Sure.
don't have downloaded. So maybe you could send me that.
I'll send you a copy of it. So I made it very similar with a very similar mindset to my Macros Plus. So it's basically a way to track your workouts, see your progress over time. Add notes. Say, for example, I didn't have a good deadlift day on Sunday, which is unfortunately true. You can keep notes on it and say, you can glance back at your previous history and say, oh, I only did this much weight, but okay, this is why. It lets one of my favorite features in it is the rest timer. With the how on the iPhone you can pull down from the notification center and there's that little today view. There's a little widget that we have for that. So while you're browsing on your phone and looking on Facebook in between your sets, you can just pull down and see how much time you have left until your next set and get alerted when it's time. So it really is just basically bringing your workout log to today's age more or less because. I personally always lose my workout logs, and I'm not going to lose my phone.
Yeah, that's like the one thing that you always make sure you have on you, right?
I have left many of them at the gym, many workout logs at the gym.
But your phone is always with you. Isn't that mad? Isn't that crazy how that works?
Funny thing is that my dad is an emergency room nurse, and he always tells me that no matter what condition people come in, their always first question is, "Where's my phone?"
All right, cool. I think this is a great interview today, Jason. Thank you again for coming on. We really appreciate it, and hopefully the listeners learned a little bit about tracking macros. And tell us a little bit more about where we can find your app and you.
Yeah,
In
so
general.
it's on the App Store. You can search My Macros Plus. Our website is getmymacros.com. You can email me, jason@getmymacros.com. And our Instagram was where I post most of the updates and stuff like that. It's my.macros or at my.macros. And stay tuned because we're going to have the web version out really shortly, which I think should help a lot more people than just those that have iPhones.
All right, guys, you can also check out the show notes. I have all Jason's information there. Go to NewYorkMuscleRadio.com and just click on episode number 35, and you'll see all the information that we talked about today inside the show notes there, so be sure to check that out. And be sure to leave us a review on iTunes. It really helps the channel grow. Make sure if you learned anything today, hit that subscribe button. We really like for you guys to keep coming back and learning from us, because this is why we do this for you. We have getting on great guests to teach you and to school you in some of the stuff that's what it takes to be successful. So, Jason, thanks again for coming on. And
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Pete, do the outro, bud.
All right, guys, it's Pete and Anthony, Jason Loewy, My Macros Plus. This is New York Muscle Radio. We're out.
Enjoyed this episode of New York Muscle Radio? Make sure to hit that subscribe button, leave us a 5-star review, and be sure to follow us on Facebook, New York Muscle Radio.